Hello.
Hey, what's going on with you?
Nothing much. What's going on with you?
I'm chill. I'm chill. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, thanks for joining me. All right, so this is Laura, aka the Sound Sommelier, here with DJ Kemit. What's your earliest memory of hip hop?
Wow. My earliest memory, it comes in two parts, right?
Okay.
I guess for me, the first memory is late 80, uh, top of 81. It was either December, January,
Mm-hmm.
purchasing on Tommy Boy Records, Planet Rock,
Nice.
and looking for the perfect beat. But my true first hip hop memory was wow, I must have been maybe a junior or senior in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and Eric B and Rakim dropped My Melody. No, Eric B for president. Yep, Eric B for president.
Nice.
And uh, before he was speech, well, as you know him, speech, he came and he got me out of school. He came to the office. He made up this big lie to get me out of school. And said something had happened to somebody in my family, and I thought it was really happening. I get to the office and I see him, and I'm like, God. But anyway, he was like, "You
It's
gotta
like
hear
a
this
Ferris
song."
Bueller moment.
It was. It really was. It really was. And he was like, "You gotta hear this song." I was like, "What are you talking about, man? You got me." I was like, "Are you bugging?" And so I, cut class, went out to his car, and listened to that song. I'll never forget that. That changed my life. After I heard that, I was like, "Sign me up."
Nice. What are some of the earliest records you recall playing in your house?
Yeah, definitely. The first record I remember buying was Casey and the Sunshine Band, "Shake Your Booty," and I remember my mom hiding it from me every time I played it. It was a 45, and she used to hide it and put it underneath furniture and stuff like that. And I used to pull it out and play it until she like broke it. And after that, I remember having the Silvers. What else was I playing? My brother was listening to a lot of crooners and James Brown, so I was playing a lot of like Parliament and Funkadelic. I had no business playing that stuff, but I was. And but yeah, early on, before I started DJing. That was the stuff like I gravitated towards in the house. Yeah.
Was there much of a scene in Milwaukee when you were growing up?
Actually, there was, and as I'm older now, and I can take a couple steps back and think and look at the scene. Like my family, my cousin Paul Thomas was involved in the scene, and then a speech of Arrested Development. His father owned a club, which my cousin threw parties at when he was in high school. So in Milwaukee, the gang culture was really bad in the 70s, early 80s. Well, even now. But even back then, in order to have successful, if you want to call them that, parties, we used to call them prep up, and everybody would have to come with either polo or Izod, and they'd have to be buttoned up, no hats or nothing like that. So credit that to Paul Thomas and the Schemers in Milwaukee for doing that. But I started taking his records. That's how I started DJing. Or I would
Andrew.
be I would be at his house the night, a night before or something like that, and I would see him preparing and putting the records in the crates and all that stuff. So that sparked the interest, and yeah, that definitely got me going.
When was the first time you actually played or touched turntables?
Wow, the first time I played or touched turntables was a house party, and it was a bunch of kids. And I think for some reason, I was in Madison, Wisconsin, right, of all places. And this kid, he was doing, basically it was a party in the basement, and his dad was a DJ, but his dad allowed his son to spin on his setup. And I had never seen anything like this. And it was just crates of records, of course, the two turntables, the mixer, the headphone. It had the light overhead, and it was just laid out. And I was just amazed. Like I couldn't even dance. I just sat there and like watched the kid the whole time, and I was like, oh snap. So yeah, and I think before he started spinning or at the end, he let me like just touch, figure it out, and I was like, oh wow. And after that, I started saving up for my first 1,200 and kept going from there.
Very nice. So B-boy crews in the mid-'80s Milwaukee were few and far between. What were your initial thoughts when Speech, a high school friend of yours, invited you to join Arrested Development? Was the timing right in your career? Or?
Well, we met when we were about 15 or 16 years old in Milwaukee. A mutual friend of ours, Aubrey Smith. They were taking driving courses together to get their driver's license.
Nice.
And, they got to talking, and then Aubrey was like, yeah, my friend Kay, he spins. So he kind of put us together. And so we started, actually, we had a DJ crew very similar to like Stetsasonic, a drummer, keyboardist,
Nice.
guitarist, about 3 MCs, 2 DJs, all this. It was crazy, right? And we started actually producing our own records. The first Rap 12 Inches come out in Milwaukee was produced by Speech and myself. And so from that notoriety and just, we also had distribution through Juan Atkins in Detroit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this weird little triangle that was starting to form. Mm-hmm. So then after all of that, basically once high school concluded, about around 87, he came to Atlanta and I went to Washington, D.C. And then we kind of formulated our careers from there. He kept producing. I was an undergrad at Howard, still DJing on the side. And then once I almost finished with my undergrad, I started going out on tour with him once he got his single deal with Chrysalis for Arrested Development off of Tennessee. So that's how we reunited. So we started out young, left, and came back. And then from that point on, I went out as a roadie, went on tour with them, came back, finished my undergrad. They were on tour with like Luther and In Vogue or something like that. And then when I came back on tour, we did Midem, the Midem conference in France, and then we did a European tour. Then we did a Lollapalooza tour, a whole bunch of tours.
Wow. So in the mid-90s, you were a founding member of the Chronicle, Yin Yang Cafe's house band that backed up-and-coming hip-hop heavyweights like Goody Mob, Outkast, and India.Arie. In your opinion, do you feel there are any venues like this still in existence today, at least before the pandemic hit?
I wouldn't say those venues exactly exist, but the experiences still do. Okay. I know there's a number of promoters in throughout most major cities that were, if they weren't or if they had not experienced the yin yang vibe they saw the Chronicle or members of, or that experience, like I said, it happened in Philly, it was happening in New York, it was happening in LA in different ways. So you won't find the venue so much, because that was like we should have encapsulated that moment in time. But you won't find that anymore. But you will find the promoters and the various bands, that are still hitting, and there's a number of them. On the top of that list is like Ghost Note and Chris Dave Drumheads and bands like that. So yeah, it's still out there.
Yeah. So what prompted your decision to leave Arrested Development in '96, 2 years after the release of Zingo Lamaduni, the group's Grammy-nominated second release?
I had learned a lot while I was in the band, and the experience offered me a lot of opportunities, and one of them was for me to go off and just do something on my own. Nice. So I definitely, with the timing, with everything was happening, and I just felt like it was a good time for me to really learn Atlanta, because I was living in Atlanta, but I really wasn't staying there. I was on tour the whole time. So that gave me a time to really, solidify some other relationships outside of Arrested Development, and, basically allowed me to plant my roots and have success to this day here in Atlanta.
Nice. Shortly after, you and Justin Chapman formed deep house duo Kemit Just, and just last year put out Kemit Just Presents Terrence Down to Here for It 12-inch. Yeah. How has your sound evolved over the last 20 years?
Wow, it's a lot. I think our sound definitely started sample based. We were doing a lot of sampling, and then Justin definitely was bringing like the musical aspects, because Justin's background was like punk rock, and then my hip hop background, along with I'd been spinning house and disco since day one. Really, that's how I learned how to mix. So we married all that together, and he was DJing as well when we met. He was doing hip hop, underground hip hop, and house and broken beat. So it was just like this fine marriage when we got together. And, you know, I was able to pull back on a little bit of what I can remember from my orchestra training or whatever. And he let me beat around on the keys. But yeah, so from there to now, we've been producing outside of Arrested Development solo and in different crews. But coming back, the sound definitely is a little bit more mature, a little bit more cleaner, and it definitely has a lot more jazz influence to it. So actually, just as of late, Justin and I have started the conversation of getting back in the studio. Well, for the sake of social distancing, bouncing the tracks and the sessions back and forth, right? So yeah. And for the most part, Justin also over the last good 10-15 years, he's been holding down the Kemit just production himself. Like he's just been taking it and running it on his own. And I was doing, you know, some other things on the side. So I got to give thanks for him for keeping the name and the vibration alive.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you guys are working on new stuff that'll be coming out soon? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's actually working on a remix for Terrence Downs. I think it's for Making Moves Records UK out of London, and trying to get him to slide me the acapella for that. But last time he was in town, we started working on some tracks, so we're just flushing stuff out. But we're not going to set a date, but we're definitely looking forward to getting some stuff out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So some of your early production work can be heard on albums from artists like Cooley's Hotbox and Mornier, who were pioneers in the neo soul movement. How did this new genre influence your personal sound and style as a DJ?
Wow, definitely. And during that time doing those productions, I was traveling heavily and spending a lot of time in the UK, London, and actually the Larnay project was recorded at. It was recorded at. It was Bath, England. Real World Studios, Peter Gabriel's Real World Studios, right? And
I've been there.
Boom. So and it's awesome. It's awesome. So you know, and Omar Laifouk came in for about 2 weeks at least. And he brought his own band. He brought some musicians with him, and just that experience of laying down of that project, mixed with and during that period of time, the Yin Yang Music Cafe was going on.
Right.
And then of course, you had the acid jazz scene, and then coming out of that, you had the Jamiroquai's and the Gallianos and that whole sound. So all that being overseas and coming back, all that was influencing me, and then all the different like compilations that was coming out of Paris and out of the UK, you know, unearthing all the boogie sounds and that late funk sound. So all that was happening at the same time. So I mean, right place, right time. And I was getting bathed in it, and I was around a lot of great musicians that really influenced me. So that's definitely where it came from.
So, your debut album Everlasting was released in 2012 and featured collaborations with Gene Taylor, Terrence Downs, who you spoke about, and Eric Roberson. What message did you hope to convey with this record, and are you happy with how it was received?
Yeah, definitely. Especially really had a great time working with Gene Baylor and Lady Almo. I had a whole bunch of fun. And Don B, Eric, Ocean Lade, Terrence Downs, Michael. I mean, and also with Frank Bacone also. So, and I know I'm probably forgetting someone else, but everybody really allowed me to express myself and really came with their A game. Everlasting really was about just making a piece of work that it didn't matter if you heard it in 2012, 2013, in 2022 or whenever, it still offered something. And Chocolate, yes, releasing with Chocolate, I can't forget that song. Kev, yeah, that's right, I forgot. Yeah, Kevin from San Francisco was also on there. Yeah, oh man, I had a lot of fun on that project. And big shout out to Daz IQ. He mixed and mastered that project for me, and he taught me a lot. But yeah, I definitely it was received well. It actually placed on Billboard when it came out. So
Nice.
I'm not mad at all. So definitely thanks to the good people over at E1 and Purpose Music, George, and Russell and George. I can't thank them enough. So, but yeah, it definitely and also a lot of remixes came off of there. Now I think about it, Carlos Mena did some remixes that gave it life, and I'm actually still getting royalties off of it. So it was good.
There you go. Can't hate on
Yeah.
that.
No royalties these days. Hey.
Yeah. You were featured in the BET series Unsung, which celebrated the group's untold story. Did you think the story was well executed and showcased the best of Arrested Development and its rise to fame?
Yeah, as with any group, you're gonna have the pros and cons, the ups and downs, like any family. But have to try and do some total recall. But yeah, from what I remember, what you know what I'm a fan of Pete Franklin anyway. He's a good dude, and he actually did do a good job in the way he approached it because he actually was trying to get some see if we had footage that hadn't been offered before and things like that. So, and he's an investigative journalist by trade as well. I think he comes from LA Times.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was cool, and it definitely brought back a bunch of memories. That's funny. I was on a call today with Dion Ferris, and we were having some flashbacks and stuff of some of those moments and stuff. But yeah, they did a pretty good job, definitely documenting Arrested Development, and there's so many untold Arrested Development stories, and I think Speech and the crew, if they haven't, they're getting ready to drop another album, so they're still doing their thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
You participated in multiple music-based residencies in Atlanta, and your name has become a bit synonymous with the scene there. What role has the vibe of your city played in your success?
wow. Atlanta, the more I'm here and the more I dig and find out about the musical history. It's just very incredible. There's a gentleman that used to live here by the name of Brian. Agent 45 is his name. Brian Paust, Agent 45 on Instagram, and he had a blog called Georgia Soul, and he did an excellent job of documenting the rise of Georgia's sound from like the 20s on up. And I actually had the opportunity of doing a project called Elevate Atlanta through the city of Atlanta. Big shout out to Camille Love. And basically, I musically trace the growth of Atlanta through its music, and a lot of it comes from Savannah, which actually kind of makes sense because Savannah's a port city, right?
Mhm.
Atlanta's known more so for the railroads. So a lot of the blues and a lot of there was a big band sound that came out of the Savannah area, especially in the 20s and 30s. And then, during and after the war, the sound kind of got lost and it moved into like a blues, more of the blues, which everybody's more familiar with and everything. And then R&B, the growth of R&B as well. But yeah, Atlanta, it's a very spiritual city, and there's it's wrapped up with a whole lot of people, a whole lot of influences, and the special part of Atlanta I live in actually has like over 200 cultural identities, and yeah, and it actually serves me well because when I go out for a jog or if I'm driving through the neighborhood, I'm hearing so many different styles of music, and it helps me expand it. It doesn't allow me to get stuck in any one thing. So Atlanta, just Atlanta proper, Stone Mountain, and just the people here, and of course its musical legacy is just unfounded. And yeah, I'm just proud to be a part of it. And then that's not even touching upon a lot of the new sounds that are coming, and especially the electronic music that's coming out of Atlanta. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
is it? Okay.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Youre Together EP dropped on Honeycomb Music in 2016. How did you go about choosing the singers and songwriters featured on the album?
Oh wow! You know what? I made a wish list basically. Of people I wanted to work with. Some I knew, some I didn't, and a few were introduced to me like while I was working on the project. And my wife Aisha, God bless her. I was a little weird about calling some of these individuals or reaching out to them just cold out the blue. And she was like, look, all they can say is no. And
Exactly.
so yeah, I just, opened up the Rolodex, started, making some calls, and people responded very well. I was just blown away and surprised, and everybody delivered on that album. And it's just, I mean, well, not that, I'm thinking back to Everlasting, but on, for Tasha LaRae, she just killed it. And the funny thing about Tasha is that she's also, or I don't know if she still is, or I'll say she was a member of Arrested Development as well.
Okay.
So we had that commonality. And then Terrence Downs, working with him on that project, of course, we had done stuff together with Comedic Just. So it was pretty smooth working with Terrence, and it's always a pleasure. But of course, the standout moment was working with Josh Milan. And that was the cold, like, just the cold call, like. So let me tell you about the song Confession on there. Was a song that I actually was supposed to have on Everlasting. And
Okay.
it did make it, and it sat. And I would play it out at parties, every now and then. And when I would listen to it, every time I heard it, I would hear Josh Milan's voice. So one day, I forget, somebody, I think it was Salah Nance. Salah Nance was cool with Josh. And I said, hey, man, can you get in touch with Josh, or, can I get his number? I got this song and I want to get him on it. And he was like, yeah, sure. And gave me his information. And I text Josh. And I was like, hey, man, I got this song. Every time I hear it, yada, yada, yada. He was like, cool, man, send it to me. So I sent it to him. And he was like, I'm about to go out on tour or something. I'll get back to you, at least 10 to 14 days. I was like, no problem, dude. You take your time. And I think I heard back from him in less, in maybe 5 to 7 days. And he was like, hey, man, what are you planning to do with this tune? And I was like, as I said, bro, every time I heard it, I heard your voice on top of it. I wanted to collaborate with you. He's like, well, I'm working on this album. I think it'd be fit good on the album. And I'm like, of
Okay.
course. And so then, I guess over time, while he was doing that, I was feeding him some more tracks. He was like, dude, I like your sound. Let's do an EP. So that's how that happened. That's how the whole thing happened. So yeah, man.
Gotta love those.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah. The Lounge Lizards, your collaborative effort with Luke Austin, released Love Trump's Hate featuring Mike City that same year in response to Trump's toxic presidential campaign. What are the chances you'll release another in response to his time in office?
Wait. I say wait because I'm thinking about some of the music I got coming out. It may already address it.
All right. TBD.
Yes, I will have. I don't have anything in pocket as of yet, but I know there will be something that definitely will address it. And I mean, I got to.
Yeah. No pressure.
Not at all. Not at all.
How did the idea for Spread Love, which has been ranked among the Southeast's most popular parties, come together? Was that your lovely wife's idea?
You know, it was Queen Aisha all day. She I think I was at a crux within my DJ career. I was doing I was doing the bigger clubs in Atlanta. And, of course, with bigger clubs comes commercial music, and, the pay was great. But, it was like the soul of the situation was zeroed out, maybe in the negative, right? Almost felt like part of me was being stripped away almost, right? So I was having some sit downs with my wife, and I was like, at the end of the day, I'm in control of this. I think I'm going to walk away from it. And knowing that when I do, the finances will be different, but I'll get back on my feet. Let me just think it through, right? And she was like, "Well, what is it that you really want to do? What is it you want to do?" I said, I was like, "I don't know." She was like, "Just think, what is it?" I said, "I don't know. I just want to spread love through music." So that's how she got the name out of me. And after that, she's out of here. And I mean, she's an event planner by trade, as well as a fundraiser and a marketer and all this stuff. So once she started plugging everything together, it just all started building on top of itself like a very well-managed anthill, right? So, and then she was like, let's do themed events. And so it was about focusing on genres of music or women or different areas or regions and just highlighting that music in a dance party. And, we would have live musicians. I know we definitely, one standout was Mark de Clive Lowe with Victor Duplay and Lady Alma. I know Monique Bingham. Just a number of different moments in Atlanta where Roy Ayers. That show was awesome. Another show with I think it was a Donny Hathaway tribute with Indy Irie and Frank McComb and just a number of other fabulous musicians and artists. So, it was definitely, and that definitely was like a sister act to another big huge thing that happened in Atlanta, still does, called Funk Jazz Cafe.
Yeah, I heard
So,
about that.
right. So Jason Orr, who curates and created Funk Jazz Cafe. So I was the DJ for that. So basically watching him put his thing together, and then my wife and I come together for Spread Love. So, I mean, not to say anything that I do, and I'm not saying I create the wheel or anything like that, but I've definitely been blessed to learn from some very great people before me.
Yeah, you influence and you've been influenced.
I try, but definitely been influenced. Yeah, definitely.
Your Kicking Up Dust Monthly is an all vinyl soul excursion. How do you feel about the use of digital production versus analog?
I still am the guy that'll wait and watch. I'll sit in the cut and watch people do it. I I don't want to call out a DJ's name, but a good friend of mine here in Atlanta, and he was one of the first DJs to jump on the Serato platform, and he would come to the club, and we were still playing vinyl. So for me, it was just a matter of when he would show up, take the record off the platter, throw it in the sleeve, boom, headphones off, switch needles, I'm out. Here he is. He has a laptop and he has his USB box and his USB cord and these four RCA cables
Amazing.
in a manual. And I was like, oh, this shit is not gonna go over well. And I just remember the first couple times watching DJs trying to set that up, and it didn't pop, and I'd have to get back on. And I remember same thing around that time. Idris Elba came to town, and he was doing
What?
some
Okay.
stuff. I was doing parties for at a venue called Vision, and I was opening, and so Idris was, it was one of those venues where they have to have a big name, in order to, that type of thing. So Idris came up there, and I had known, because I know some people from the scene in the UK. Shout out to Daz IQ and the Broken Beat and Bugs in the Attic cats. But I knew he could spin. I knew Idris could spin, but same thing. He came up there with technology and couldn't plug in, so he just MC'd and I DJ'd or whatever. So, but yeah. So the way I feel about it is I'm very iffy about it, and I waited at least 2 years to go to even CDJs. Like I waited. I watched people play CDJs. I was like, okay, I'll start converting my music over. Then the same thing when Serato, I gravitated to that a little bit quicker because I was like, hold up, I can use turntables again.
Right.
Boom. But I always choose vinyl over anything. It has to do with frequency, and just digitally where things are frequency right now, it's just not good for the mind, the body, or the soul. I mean, just the signal that it's transmitted at, just the science behind it. But when you play analog, it's nice and warm. Not that there's not anything being pressed now in analog that has messed up frequency. That's a whole nother discussion. But when you're playing stuff like that mid 80s on back down, usually I'm stuck between 67 and 85, somewhere in there, my selections. And I love it. I love vinyl. I just love the feeling of it. I love the way it sounds. I love the snap, crackle, and pops. Even when the needle jumps, I'm like, that's real. That's real. Yeah. Vinyl, analog all day, analog.
I hear you. You said in an interview not too long ago that your generation began with, and still to this day depends upon, two Technic turntables, a DJ mixer, and vinyl records. Has this changed over the years?
There's been the implementation, like we just said, of the CDJs and what else has come around? The digital turntables and the iPhones, the iPads, all that is there, but it always comes back to, it's always, I think it's always going to come back to two turntables, a microphone, a mixer in those records, or some, at least just the idea of having the two turntables and the mixer. That's always going to be there, man. And, because I mean, all these controllers are based off of that. You know what I'm saying? And then people wonder, where did that come from? And you'll be so surprised at how many companies are out here actually making analog mixers, rotary analog mixers, and it's people are really, really going back to the vinyl, to touching something real, and wanting to hear that warmth in their sound, and or caring about the sound. The MP3, the science behind that, I think if it's recorded at 128 kbps, it's only 1/11th of the true sound of the, so it's just stripped back.
Yeah, 320 I think is like the best you can get, and it doesn't even touch it.
Nah, it's not nowhere near, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, just that true analog high fidelity sound. Give it to me all day.
Yeah, multiple people sent me an article recently that said vinyl outsold CDs, and I was like, how is that even a thing? Like, CDs don't even sell anymore, but okay.
Yeah.
So you've been a guest DJ for the likes of Prince, Janet Jackson, and Jermaine Dupri. Do you have any favorite memories from those past gigs, or others that I didn't mention?
I mean, definitely, and shout out to Bart Phillips, Sunseeker Productions, for hooking myself up, and members of the Chronicle as well. We were the backing band for the Soul Train Music Awards when it was revived in the early 2000s. I think the first 3 or 4 shows were shot in Atlanta, and I happened to be a part of the band. So all the people that ran through, that performed with us, I got to meet them. So that definitely was really cool. But it always tops out with Prince. Just having, actually not freaking out, and just having a honest conversation with that man, and that always stands out. You know what I'm saying? I've forgotten a lot of things in my life and in my career, but I can still remember that conversation, that moment. It was an after party. I think that night, I believe he was performing at the Tabernacle, but Dallas Austin was doing an after party, and he asked me to do it. And I was there, I was set up, and I think I had seen Prince the night before. It was probably one of those events where he did 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights. Tabernacle's not a real big venue, so yeah. But so I was at the club, and everybody was waiting, and he wasn't showing. So I was packing up my gear, get a phone call, and it was Dallas. He was like, "Look, man," he was like, "Trust me, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but he's really coming. He's on the way. I'm in a pinch. Can you please?" I said, "Dude, my stuff is packed up. I'm walking out the club." He was like, "Please," and I was like, "All right." So yeah, definitely, I was, and I'm happy. Set back up, and yeah, he showed up, and we had he came up in the booth, and we had a conversation, and we talked about music and the effects of music, and he was like, "You mind if I just chill and listen?" I was like, "Well, do I mind?" And all the whole time, staying composed and everything. But I was playing soul stuff, I was playing like Al Green and Luther, and he was just vibing out. He had a young lady with him, and he was right in front of the booth, and he stayed for a good while. When he was done, he turned around, dapped me up, and peaced out. I mean, it was that was it. And yeah, just it was just really cool. It was really warm, and it was one of those moments where you're just like, yeah, he's just another normal dude, and just want to be treated as such. That's it.
That sounds like a dream sequence.
Yeah, and I'm happy it actually happened. But yeah, real just good spirit. Like I said, it was just like talking to like one of your friends. Just nothing put on, and just really just good dude.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. Who have you been listening to more since the pandemic started?
a lot of jazz, which caused me to do my jazz show. My wife was like, you're listening to a lot of jazz, because it allowed me to put myself, like, neutralize myself with everything that was going on. I wasn't, and I still haven't. I don't do the television. NPR, even NPR is, I hate to say it, like it's becoming really repetitive. It's like that propaganda gun. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost more Al Jazeera is where I get my information from these days. So in order to have something, like I said, to neutralize and just give me my, lack of better words, zen, just listening to a lot of jazz, and was able to put me at a place where I was able to think clear and focus. And I actually got a show that I do. I gotta plug it. Actually, it happens on Saturdays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do a show called Higher Vibe. So that's what I've been listening to. A lot of jazz. I just got back in the studio making music hours ago, like, not really, maybe over the weekend, because I'm like Ralph Tresvant, real sensitive to what's going on around me. And it's sometimes hard to even DJ, especially with the streaming sets and stuff. And salute to all the DJs that have been doing the streaming, because it's definitely healed me and helped me. But yeah, just a lot of jazz. I like a lot of the upbeat, the dance floor jazz. That's what I really like to focus on. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost leans on big band, but I like it when the guys are swinging and they're getting it. So anything, Love Supreme, all the way down, excuse me, even some mellowed out Stolen Moments, and, whatever. So that's where I've been. And like I said, just starting to get back into the music. So a little bit of lo-fi. My daughters turn me on to, some good stuff when I can remember what the heck it is, but they're always good at that. And yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I am.
That's the majority answer when I ask that question.
Yeah.
It must be some, like, soothing.
It is.
But not like the sit in your feelings kind of jazz, but the, like, you gotta make me feel better kind of jazz.
Exactly.
So you mentioned your Twitch show. Where did the idea for your Twitch channel come from?
All good ideas come from women. So my wife,
Your wife again? Okay. Never let her go.
Bet on woman every time. No, I never will, and never could let her go. But yeah, she was like, just why don't you showcase some of this jazz music? So that's where and how it happened. And literally, because at first I kind of fought the idea of even streaming, and a good friend of mine, and a good manager as well to different artists, Jarrell Allen, he was like, man, you should definitely jump on this, this streaming thing. And I was like, okay. And now, then there was a period of time my wife would come in the studio and I would just be streaming at 2 a.m. and she'd be like, the hell, God. So, but yeah, man. Yeah.
Nice. So as someone whose name is regularly called to perform in cities across the globe, how has the pandemic affected your work schedule?
Ooh. One thing I've been blessed about is when my youngest daughter was born in 2005, I made the honest decision of, and don't get me wrong, I always love getting an invitation and want to be overseas, but to be at home, you know what I'm saying? To be closer to both my girls. It definitely has and is paying off. So for me, like, gig wise, definitely it's taken, as with every other performer, a big L. It's really, and then with the venues as well. One of the venues that many house promoters called home, called the Music Room, just closed its doors.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, and I'm actually doing something for one of the stores here that's known for servicing a lot of music and books and culture. Soul Village, aka Moods Music. Last weekend and this weekend, they're doing streaming events from there to raise awareness, engagement, and raise funds as well. So uh, yeah, man, it's been rough. It's been rough as far as gigs. I'm also definitely blessed enough. I work as a content manager as well during the day, so I'm able to definitely balance my income, but it's not it's not what it definitely nowhere near what it is or
And not as
was.
fulfilling, I'm sure.
No, 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 not to take anything away, from my gig if anybody I'm working with is watching. But yeah.
Do you have any current projects in the works?
Yes, I do. I definitely do. Started and finishing up a project with what's it, Grammy Award winning saxophonist Walter Beasley. Um, Working on actually mixing down the second of four songs for a project for R2. Big shout out to Kyrie and Charisma, which is long overdue. I know if Charisma is listening to this, he's rolling his eyes like this guy. But so it's a 4-song EP that I'm giving to them. What else? That I also Wow, yeah, I had a good phone call today, working on a project that I wish I could speak on. That's actually going to be really really cool. And there's
So it's
another
more of a
one.
stay tuned kind of project.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. And oh, there's another a new label out of the UK that reached out to, and I'm working with the artist that oh wow, um, another artist. I don't even want to say the name yet, but I'll say this art. The artist's name is Fundisha, and people may remember her. But I reached out to her to do some house songs, and she just like killed it. So
Nice.
as soon as I finish mixing down these songs, I'm gonna start mixing down that as well. And but yeah, so that's what's in the mix, and yeah, definitely. So that's probably get me through near the end of 2020, and then 2021 working on some other EPs. And I actually want to reignite a project with some of my brothers from the Chronicle. So hopefully you'll be seeing something from the Chronicle in a new vein.
You're a busy man.
Hey, that's what we do.
Uh, so over the years, you've blessed almost every large club in Atlanta and cities across the world, and have said that the last hurdle we have to jump in Atlanta is the color race hurdle. When I go to an event, it's either all black or all white. We must find a way to mix up the scene to make this thing thrive and grow. With the racial injustices occurring around the country so frequently in current months, do you think this is achievable?
I do. And it's not going to be easy because it's like I said, we've been pushing the party scene. And don't get me wrong, there are those parties sometimes few and too far in between, but where it is a good mix, even for the DJ lineup and the crowd, right? But it's a conscious effort. But the conversations are happening, and but the thing is, like, we're all cool. You know what I'm saying? Like all the DJs, no matter what it is, if you playing jacking, if you playing deep, if you playing tech, if you playing Afro, so like we all know each other, and we all check in on each other. So I definitely and with the closing again with the closing of the music room, shout out to DJ Karen. And there's good brothers out there like Bob Stravosky, who does the back-to-back parties, and he has the music cafe in Atlanta as well. So there's and Vicky Powell, and there's a host of DJs that are very conscious, and I think we're going to be doing a lot more conversations about coming together to do events, especially some events for some causes as well. But yeah, it's we just got to get past the part of where we're talking about it. Like I said, we're aware, and we just got to do it. That's all there is to it.
Right, well, Kevin, I appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else that you want to add or promote?
Um, if I want to promote anything, I guess is just love and respect for one another. Um, I know everybody's talking about the vote. I guess if anything, everybody should load up on information. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, um, and just respect one another, and stay healthy. Everybody, build your immunity, and just thanks to anybody that's ever listened to, purchased, critiqued anything that music wise that I've done. So I've just been grateful. I've been blessed. I work with a lot of great people. Big shout out to Luke Austin. He's the reason why my Lounge Lizard productions just sound so great, especially with his keyboard work. And shout out to Justin Chapman, same thing with Comedic Just. I just work with a lot of talented and great people, and all the vocalists that I work with, from Joe Rock Jones to Tasha LaRae, and now with Fundisha, I'm just very grateful. So, just a lot of thanks. And I'm just looking forward to the future. And yeah, just thanks for having me. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
thank
Elle.
you.
Thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate this. And, in anything that Applejack has been a part of, that I can follow up on. I don't have my polo stuff on, but,
Yeah,
anytime I can be a part of anything Applejack's been a part of, I know I'm
he loves
good.
his polo, yeah.
That's my guy.
All right, well, I hope you have a great night and a great rest of your week.
There it is. Now, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good
All right.
night.
Yep, you too.